So, welcome everybody to Power Up Gamers. I am Maximilian X, and with me today is Deniru, and we're going to be talking about the Game of the Year nominees specifically. And I think we have a lot of opinions on that, and also on what constitutes Game of the Year.
Not
in
as much as
general.
you think.
I don't know. Like for me, well, I think most people would agree because most people have been saying it for a while now. Is DLC should not count
Oh,
as Game of the Year.
we're diving right in.
We are
Okay,
diving in right away because
starting with the not so hot things.
Because if you haven't checked it, or if you're not aware, which I would be surprised if you're watching this year not aware. But yeah, the Game of the Year for the Game Awards, the nominees are live. You can vote right now. I think right now is vote round 2. Voting round 3 starts, I think, the 9th of December, which is the last voting round that you can do. And there are 6 games, of course, that were nominated. In order: Astrobot, Astrobot, Balatro, Black Myth Wukong, Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree, which we'll get to, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and Metaphor ReFantasio. Now, 2 of these are not like the other, at the very least. And I'm not talking about Balatro. At the very least, we can confidently say Balatro is a full game. No, there's two controversies in here. One that I don't think really is a controversy, and the other one is absolutely very controversial. Even though before the nominees were presented to the world, the Game Awards felt it necessary to put forward new rules, additional rules to Game of the Year, and what constituted as Game of the Year, and what could be considered Game of the Year. One of the things that they said was, hey, remakes and a DLC are now eligible. Which, depending on remakes and remasters, I feel like, at least if we're going to start there, let's start there before we get into the spicy stuff. Remakes is very gray area. Depending on what they do in terms of the of the remaster, very hard for me to say yeah, okay, it's fine. But remakes specifically, when they change stuff, then I'm be like, okay, enough is changed. The general premise is the same, but enough has changed, right? Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is where that one falls in, where people are like, why is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth a remake being nominated for Game of the Year? And Rebirth is not a remake, right?
Thank you. I was just going to ask, do you really consider that a remake?
No, sorry. It's not a remaster, it's a remake.
Yeah.
As in, it's a reimagining of the story, from the top to the bottom, right? Because we had Final Fantasy VII Remake, which was a misdirect because it literally meant remaking the story of Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah.
Now, Rebirth continues that remaking of that story, hence Rebirth. But yeah, it's it's something completely different from what it originally was, right? If you play Final Fantasy VII and you start playing Final Fantasy Remake and Rebirth, you'll see some similar story beats and characters. That's about it.
You know what? I akin this to superhero movies. We've had, and the best example I can think of is the Batman franchise and the Spider-Man franchise. We've seen Batman become an orphan a couple of times on film.
Well, we've seen him become an orphan many times in comics. Yeah,
exactly, right? We've seen it happen, and that's a story trope, if you will, that leads to him becoming Batman. Same thing with Spider-Man and Uncle Ben getting, and you know what? It's a story plot that everyone knows. It's a story plot that helps drive the basis of these characters and allows them to become who they are after. And I think that's the same thing with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, right? There are similar plot points.
Yep.
How we get to those plot points is different from the original story.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, this is not a remaster where we're just upping visuals, upscaling them to HD or 4K or whatever. This is a new game built from the ground up. It doesn't play the same way as Final Fantasy VII does.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't interact in the same way. You're really just taking the same locales, the same characters we're familiar with, and certain story points we're familiar with, but you're adding on to it. You're building on it. You're expanding it more. Right. And to me, if you take a look at that, you have a lot of content there for a new game.
and the
right?
gameplay is completely different from the original.
Exactly. We're not going turn-based. We're action-oriented now.
Yeah, which, for example, if you want to know a very good example of a remake, Pokemon Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god, I hate those games so much.
Wow.
No,
I can't say that.
They are the worst Pokemon remakes that they've done so far.
With that, I've heard a lot of comment from fans that are like, these are the worst.
Yeah, and apparently because I did not finish, I could not get myself to finish that game. The only thing I did was like there were some stuff that you could transfer to, like there were some Pokemon that you can get through events. I did that, transferred them to Pokemon Violet, and like called it a day.
Yep.
Like what happened in that one is that it's literally the same game. Like beat for beat, it's the same game. The only thing that they really changed was that, and they redid how the NPC levels were. So the progression in terms of like level scaling, because apparently they made it easier because of the XP share, but then they also ramped up the difficulty near the end game. So like Cynthia's battle was now so much harder than it was on the DS, which makes absolutely no sense. Because like because between doing the gyms and doing the Elite Four and the champion battle, there is no real progression. It just you have the gyms, you do the 8 gyms, you go to Elite Four, and all of a sudden they're playing like they're gosh darn pros at Pokemon Worlds, which makes no sense. So even that change is not enough for me to be like, oh, this is eligible for Game of the Year.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that I hate them. But yeah, so with Rebirth,
throw that in, hey?
I really don't like this. Like people say, when I say like Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire and Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver are my favorite remakes, they look at me funny. Well, not with Heart Gold, Soul Silver, but when I say Auras, they look at me funny. I'm like,
yeah,
you can look at me funny all you want, but Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl exists. You can't give me that kind of side eye.
No. And like I said, there's people I know, like I have some friends who are very hardcore Pokemon, buy both copies, fill out the Pokedex, do the living Pokedex stuff. And even their reaction and their response to Pokemon Shining Diamond, Brilliant Pearl, whatever.
Yeah.
Those remakes are just kind of like it's garbage, it's trash. Yeah. It's literally they took the same game, glitched it up, and put a fresh coat of paint on.
Exactly. Which is not something that you can say about Rebirth. So no, you can't say that about Rebirth. The other thing, now we get to the real spicy one, is the DLC part. Which I don't care how feature complete a DLC is. The fact that you have to have played through a majority of the main game does not make it its own thing. Like, if you want to talk about DLC being its own thing, I don't know if you've played these before, but the Xenoblade, Xenoblade Chronicles games. So the second one had DLC content, which is like a new story. It's like kind of a prequel to Xenoblade 2. But unlike the DLC that they did for 1 and 3, this was standalone. So if you wanted to play this DLC as its own thing, you could literally buy a cartridge that just had the DLC, pop it in your Switch, and play it as its own game. So the DLC for Xenoblade 2 is its own game. You can buy it as DLC for the main game, or you could be like, hey, this is technically a prequel to Xenoblade 2. Let me play that first, so it's just like buy that
standalone adventure that you can have outside of purchasing the original game. Okay,
exactly. In that regard, I would be like, yeah, that 100%, that makes sense. It's its own thing. You can buy it, you can play it, you can experience that in its own bubble, and you can have your opinion on it. That's fine. This is not that. As much as like people loved Shadow of the Erdtree and how difficult it was and how it encapsulated its own story, it's not its own game. Why is this here?
Okay, so let me ask you this.
This could have gone to any other game, and I don't know why the judges deemed it was necessary for this to be there.
Okay, I agree. I don't know why, especially as it's categorized as DLC, right?
Yeah.
It's not a game. It is an add-on to a game. And it's not even like old school 90s where we had lock-on technology and we like slap cartridges together. Thanks, Sonic. But like, let me ask you this though. And this is, I think, where I just want to, I'm sparking conversation here.
Yeah.
If Elden Ring Shadow of the Erd Tree came out as a standalone title.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Or it was Elden Ring 2 or 1.5 or something.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah.
You know, do you think maybe, because we've all heard the stories sometimes where, you know, there's DLC that's planned or there's so much stuff left on the cutting floor that developers tend to either make another game. That's, I think, what was that? Two Worlds 2?
Yeah.
Right? That was going to be an expansion originally for the original Two Worlds and then became its own second game. And then you have things like Final Fantasy 13 where there was so much cut content or so much else that they wanted to do. We got 2 other games from it, right? Now, are those Game of the Year games? Probably not. But
I haven't played those, so I don't have an opinion on that.
They're not. But that's what I'm saying. Like, if this game became, you know, if it was point 2 or a sequel. Now, here's the thing, and here's where I'm going to go. Like, if this is a sequel to Elden Ring and not a DLC, do you think it gets the same kind of love? Because this is
if it's a standalone title, that's fine. I mean, story-wise, it's not like a continuation of the story. It's
right.
It's an addition. Yeah. But if it was its own thing that you could download outside of the main game, like I just explained with Xenoblade, 100%. I'll allow it because 1, you can download it as a DLC. 2, you can buy it as a standalone thing.
Do you think it would get the same love though? Like in comparison, because what is this? It's I think I looked online. I haven't played it personally myself. I'm still struggling through the original Elden Ring, but it's a 25-ish on average hour playthrough, which is a full game for some experiences. That's like 3 Call of Duties.
Yeah, I mean that's assuming your skills did not lapse over time. Then, you could probably do it over 25. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, because like I'm looking online, like, you know, people are saying it's taken them, like the main path is like 10 hours. But if you do like 100% completion, you can like sink like 50 plus hours into this game.
Oh, absolutely.
Into this DLC, sorry. Yeah. Let's call it what it is, a DLC expansion.
Yeah.
Right?
Because that's how From Software games work.
Right. But that's what I'm saying is it that maybe, and I'm just trying to think outside the box here, is that this game is so rich in content and feature in the sense that, you know, it could stand alone as a title, but they brought it as what's the word I'm looking for? They brought it as like extra content for people who have already played the original game, and maybe to do it in such a way that we're not getting like, you know, Soulsburn burnout, for lack of a better term, where they're pumping out a new game all the time. They're just giving you an add-on, right? Like we talk about this with a lot of games, like Call of Duty. We talk about it. Sports games, you know, is a common problem. Like, why are we getting a new sports game, Call of Duty game every year and paying full price when like those sports games maybe just need a roster and a team update if there's new team names or jerseys or whatever and roster changes? Absolutely. But every year you're getting the same product and people are going out there and paying, you know, $69.99 for a new copy of Madden or Call of Duty Black Ops 23 when it comes out.
I never understood that, especially since they added stuff like Ultimate Teams with their football game.
Right.
Why is like they should have like done this years ago where it's just you have the app. The app is the game. You update the roster as needed and like that's it. Because in terms of engine progression, yeah, back in the day it made sense because the engines changed very quickly. Now the engines barely change year over year.
Let me ask you this then. Even if the changes that are there, if they're so minimal, like I know I'm a big NHL guy. I love NHL.
Yeah.
And yes, I bought NHL 25 and I've bought every NHL since 1994.
You're part of the problem.
I am part of the problem. But I buy it when it's on sale. Right? Or I get them through giveaways. Like last year I won a copy of NHL 24. I didn't shell out for it.
Nice.
Right? The last copy of NHL, some have been presents. Like, you know, it's not me forking money over, but I do the Be a Pro mode every year.
Yeah.
Right? And I go in there, I build my character, and then, you know, It's the same freaking opening sequence.
Year over year. Yeah.
Year over year.
Surprised.
I think there's YouTube videos about it. But what I was gonna say is, wouldn't it be beneficial if they did the same thing that maybe what they're doing, like how Elden Ring is doing? I don't mind paying an extra $20 to get paid for the 2025 roster update.
Yeah, I mean, if they did something like that, but I honestly wouldn't. But yeah, they have to they have to pay for the license, so I understand.
Yeah. My only question, by the way, and this is just a side note, but because I don't do HUT, does that carry over year after year? Or is it a new thing every year?
Wait, what do you mean?
HUT, the Ultimate Team. Sorry, HUT. They call it HUT in NHL because it's Hockey Ultimate Team.
Right? Yeah.
My bad.
In EAFC, it's called Ultimate Team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So does that carry over here? So if you buy FC 2024 and you go ham on Ultimate Team, and then you buy FC 2025, does your progression? Because I know you can buy packs and stuff, correct? Like
I think it does. I don't pay FC. I'm probably one of the few Europeans that does not play FC.
Bloody hell!
Here's the thing. I used to play FIFA way back in the day. Like one of my favorites was Road to 98.
I
had that on the PlayStation. I didn't have a memory card, so I could never get to.
You had to keep that shit on all day.
But I mean, I think for the most part it does go over.
Yeah.
So you don't have to like reinvest entirely into new cards.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's changed, just like because they're based off the roster. So those do change. Some cards may be removed if like a player retires and stuff like that. But it's kind of like it's basically fantasy football. So.
Yeah. I love how we went from talking about Final Fantasy to fantasy football. And this whole time we're supposed to be talking about Elden Ring, and we just got really, really sidetracked. But that's the point. I think just to kind of put it back in direction here.
Yeah.
I think why this is such a polarizing nomination is because you probably have one of the most richest DLCs out here.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of the last time off the top of my head where we got so much from one piece of DLC. Like, yes, okay, you've got your MMO expansions, I'm sure the Diablo expansions, but you've seen what DLC has been like for the last couple years for standalone titles that aren't part of franchises or aren't meant to be MMOs or like dungeon crawlers. And I think it sucks that they put it as that they're nominating a DLC. I'm scared that this is going to open up a new trend, and one day a game of the year is just going to be 5 DLC packs.
Here's the thing. If they wanted to, they could easily make a new category for DLC.
Oh yeah.
Just do that. I think everybody else has been saying that, and this is just regurgitating. I know, but just make a new category, DLC. Be done with that.
Then you know what? Everyone is saying that because it is the easiest solution.
Yeah, but they're not going to do that. Exactly. They want the controversy,
right?
Or at least they want a little bit of controversy.
I mean, controversy sells.
Because the other thing on here that is also controversial. Surprisingly, again, it's not Balatro. It's Black Myth Wukong. And that's only because I don't want to say it because I don't want to get canceled.
You're not going to get canceled because you're going to say what everyone else is saying. Black Myth Wukong is a great game. But Black Myth Wukong had controversy because of statements made by people involved in the development of the game.
Statements that were, by the way, like very badly taken out of context, by the way.
Exactly.
And on purposely so, by the way. Like, it wasn't like, oops, we took it out of context. No, they took it out of context on purpose. Because, again, game made in China.
Yep.
Which...
Of course, everyone's going to freak out a little bit.
So is Genshin freaking Impact.
So is Fortnite. Fortnite's majority shareholder, Fortnite is co-developed by Tencent, and no one ever bats an eye. And you got millions of kids spending V-Bucks to look like a freaking banana.
No, that's because Tim Sweeney is their front guy.
Man, I'm just saying, Fortnite's a stupid game. I want that on record. I fucking hate Fortnite. I've played it. I play it. Confession, I play it.
I think everybody's played it.
Everyone plays it, but I hate it. I just hate it. but I am gonna go try out the new season since it came out yesterday.
Yeah, I think isn't that the one that reverts to like the OG stuff?
OG, yeah.
Yeah, I have to check it out too. Ironically,
So, if we were to take away remakes, and we'll just for the sake of conversation, even though this would be my pick for game of the year. My pick for game of the year, by the way, is definitely Final Fantasy Rebirth.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's personal. That's a personal bias, just because of how near and dear to it is to me. But I know it probably won't win because A, it didn't sell well. It reviewed well, but it didn't sell well. And I think what we've talked about is just how it's being categorized as a remake is going to kind of sour its bias. So for me, if we take out Rebirth and Shadow of the Erdtree, that leaves us with Metaphor, Astrobot, Black Myth, and Balatro.
Yeah.
Now, Black Myth we've already talked about. Great game. A little bit of controversy there. We understand it. But you know what? Kind of, it looks great. I haven't played it yet, but I plan on because I'm waiting. There's actually a physical release coming out. And me being a physical guy, I'm going to buy the physical copy. I've played Metaphor, the demo, and I have
you played the full prologue?
I've gone through it, but yeah.
Okay. No, I mean, because I'm still going through the full prologue.
Yeah, no, but I've played it. But I mean, obviously, even when I've talked about it with other people, it's Persona, but not in a high school setting, right? Like it's in a different setting, but it plays exactly like any other Persona game. And then
it's Persona Freedom Fighters.
Yeah, exactly. Right, and then we've got Astrobot, and personally, I'm hoping Astrobot wins. I think Astrobot, like if I have to pick that, or if I have to pick games, Astrobot or
I hear good things about Astrobot.
It's a great game. Yeah. You know what it is? And I've read this as well. It was one of the fastest selling games on the PS5. I think it hit 1 million like super quick. And it's also the highest rated platformer, I think, in the last decade that doesn't have Mario's name attached to it.
Oh, okay, in that regard. Yeah. I mean, that makes sense, yeah.
And that's good. And you know what? It is a fun game. It is a little like drink the PlayStation Kool-Aid. Because your ship is a PS5 that lands crash lands on a planet. And then you got to go find all the parts for it. And all the parts are really like the selling features of the PS5. Like, its processor and whatever. But in all of that, there's a very fun game with tight controls that really takes advantage of the DualSense controller in such a way that you go back to another game. And it's a damn shame that you don't get the same experience.
Yeah, because it's a good tech demo.
This is a full-on game, my guy. Like this is a good, like this is a proper game.
I'm not saying it's not a full game. It's still a tech demo.
Yeah, and you know what? I love my tech demo. It's a good fucking game. Like all jokes aside, like it's a very tight game, very good controls, easy to pick up, easy to play. Like it's accessible for anyone to play. Like I've had people come over. I've had kids as young as like 9 try it out, up to like 59 try it out, and they're all having a good time with this game. I mean, if you give a 9-year-old Black Myth Wukong, I'm sure they're gonna like it. It's gonna be cool, but they will be crying. Most of them. Some of them might actually get it, but most of them will be crying, like running to mommy.
Yeah.
We'll leave it at that. But yeah, I think for me, I would if we took out the games that we've been talking about, so Final Fantasy Rebirth and Shadow of the Erdtree, my vote would go to Astrobot, and that's only because Balatro, it's solitaire. I've said this already. Balatro's a card game. There's no story. There's no progression. You just play cards. That's like solitaire winning game of the year, or Tetris. Well, we talked about this.
It's technically poker. It's technically
whatever.
Poker.
You know what I mean.
No, but okay. So I will be completely transparent here. Of the games that are listed, the only one that I've actually played enough of is Balatro. No, because like you, I've only played through Metaphor through the prologue, and I haven't even finished that. I don't have a PlayStation 5, so I can't play Final Fantasy 7.
Yes, you can.
And I'm still playing through the main line of Elden Ring, so I haven't even. I think I've gotten to the point where technically I could start Shadow of the Erdtree, but I've never beaten Elden Ring, so that's my main mission right now. So I can't even talk about that. Same goes for Black Myth and Wukong. No PS5, no play. And the same goes for Astrobot. So the only thing that I can really talk about is Balatro, and one of my favorite games of all time is a little game called Pocket Card Jockey, which came out for the Game Boy. Oh, sorry, for the 3DS back in the day, and got a port to the Switch recently. I think
Right on.
earlier this year. Yeah, it came out around the same time as Balatro, like a week before Balatro dropped. So that kind of took me off guard because I was way into Pocket Card Jockey, and people are like, if you like Pocket Card Jockey, you're gonna love Balatro. I'm like, dude, let me just
So
play freaking Pocket Card Jockey. And then I played Balatro recently. I'm like, shit, it's that same kind of
hold on.
same kind of thing. The only difference is Pocket Card Jockey is one, it's a port, so that wouldn't count for Game of the Year. And
Plus, it came out in
two,
2023.
true. No, it came out in 2020. It did?
Wait.
Did you just look that up?
Of course.
Damn, okay.
The remake came out on iOS via Apple Arcade.
Yeah, that was
So okay, sorry, my mistake. Let me retract my statement. The iOS Apple Arcade remake came out in 2023, and you're right. The Nintendo Switch version, which is the same, came out in February 2020. Yeah, you're right. Almost like a day apart.
Yeah, I know, right? From Balatro.
What the fuck?
But the difference is Pocket Card Jockey actually has a story.
Game of the Year. Put it on. Jeff, you're watching this. I know you are. Scratch Balatro and put on Pocket Card Jockey. Like, that's Game of the Year material right there. There's a fucking story.
Yeah, but that's again, it's a remake and a port. So that's why it doesn't count.
Fits the bill of controversy.
I'm just saying. The thing is, it probably did not sell a lot, which breaks my heart because it has the same appeal as Balatro, but in the form of horse racing, and it has an actual plot.
Huh. Well, I might have to try this game.
I mean, I've played it on stream. I've played it on stream a couple of times before. So I oh god, I don't know if the VOD is still up. I might have to see.
I'm gonna have to go stalk your Twitch now.
I might have to see if I have it. Anyway, the point is, Balatro as a game.
Yeah.
If you're just looking at pure like gameplay and like the replayability, the strategy, learning essentially how to play poker.
Mm-hmm.
Because it kind of teaches you how to play through the play. You kind of learn, different suits and blah blah blah, and blind bets and stuff like that.
Yep.
And it also forces unique scenarios onto you every 3 games.
Yeah.
So yeah, that kind of makes it a little bit more interesting. But it's basically just a very by the numbers roguelite.
Right.
Which, that's not wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. It's probably the most interesting roguelike you'll play in a decade. But yeah, I don't know. I would not be surprised if Balatro won. If Balatro wins Game of the Year, I would not be surprised.
If Balatro wins Game of the Year, I will eat a hat. No, don't pick a hat. I'm sorry.
And not is it real or is it fake an actual hat?
I don't know. I'm just
not
saying,
a cake. No, not a cake hat. It's not gonna be a cake.
Okay, yeah,
hat.
I'll make it. Oh yeah, okay. I'll eat a cake hat.
No, not a cake hat. An actual.
No, it's a Black Forest hat. We've decided. Thank you. No. All I'm saying is like, I find it okay. With the games that Balatro is competing with, I think it might be hard for it to win. And I feel like right now, honestly, if you look at any other game, the only thing that Balatro really has for it is like the momentum that it's carried, because obviously it released how it released, and then later they put out a mobile port, so now you can get your Balatro fix on the go, right? But I think you're competing with a lot of other titles that have had just the momentum on its own without the need for some sort of refresh.
Sure, but you also have to realize that it came out super early in the year.
Yeah, well, so did Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. They were 6 days apart.
Huh, okay. No, sorry. I was going to make a point about how it was still being talked about to this day. And to be fair, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth also kind of got a little bit of a second win because the PlayStation 5 Pro came out.
Okay, that's fair.
to improve like the quality of life in terms of playing, which is kind of ironic because Black Myth Wukong still didn't really profit from the PlayStation 5 Pro being out, which is a whole other thing altogether.
Listen, it's gonna take them some time.
The most important thing to take away from Game of the Year when it comes to the Game Awards, 90% of the weight comes from the judges.
Yeah.
The over 10% is these 3 voting rounds that we, the regular people, get to engage in. Yeah, I would also not be surprised if Shadow of the Earth Tree won, because I can imagine that the judges would put the maximum amount of weight behind Shadow of the Earth Tree, and it would need just a little nudge from the public to get it over the top, essentially.
Okay, conspiracy hat time, or tinfoil hat time. Sorry, conspiracy time. What if this whole thing? Because you know the old saying that any publicity is good publicity.
Yeah.
If Shadow of the Earth Tree wins, and everyone is up in arms, and now everybody has a reason to tune into the Game Awards to actually see who wins. You've now built media hype around this. You've now built a reason for people to watch this. Because I'm going to be honest with you, I rarely watch the Game Awards.
I don't watch it live because it's way too late for me.
Okay, there's that reason. I just don't. I mean, I value video games. I appreciate my video games, but I also have a life. Like, and I'm not trying to sound condescending in any way, but
no, I also appreciate my sleep. So yeah,
we need to eat, sleep, work, so we can earn money to buy the video games and stare at them on our shelf because we just don't have the time to play them or we're too tired.
Yeah,
right. But that's the thing. Like, I feel like this would be a reason for people to be refreshing on your X/Blue Sky or whatever. It's a reason to be looking at the people who are following it. It's the people to watch along on Twitch for like reactions to your favorite streamer who's watching it. There's a reason to tune in. There's a reason to have it at the forefront.
Yeah.
You have now created something within the gaming community that everyone wants to see and how it turns out. Which, you know what? Hey, great. Good job. Mission successful. But like I said, scary, like, precedent.
Yeah.
Very scary precedent.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think with that, I guess we just have to wait until December 12th because that's when the Game Awards is going to be live. I guess we'll do a check-in after the fact.
Yeah.
From who won, because of course there's like 29 different categories. We only covered Game of the Year because that one is the most controversial. But if you look at stuff like best narrate, the best game, the direction, stuff like that, Balattra's also in there, which that's a whole different conversation. Yeah. I guess we'll see then. Yep. What are your opinions about the Game Awards and the Game of the Year? What is your Game of the Year? Let us know in the comments below. You can always find us here on Power Up Gamers' channel and also our socials. You can find them also in the description below. I'm Maximilian X, and I also do podcasting and streaming. And Denru?
Hi. Yeah, my name's Denru. You can call me Denny. I stream. I do stuff on Instagram, and you'll probably catch me on the occasional podcast with somebody because I like to talk.
So with that, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe. Yes. Don't forget to hit the bell notification so that you get notified as soon as a new video pops up. And we'll see you all next time.
See ya.